These are the Skeksis, Gelflings, the Mystics. These are the Pod People. And this, a Garthium. If you think they're unearthly, you're right. These creatures are, according to their creators, from another world, another time in the Age of Wonder. That world is the eerie, beautiful, and sometimes frightening world of the Dark Crystal. It came to Earth and landed at the Lincoln Center Library, and there we talked to some of the creators about this new movie. A fantasy made in an entirely new way, without animation, without human characters.
Release the Gelfling!
What does this mean?
Fools! Skeksis fools! What do you want with me?
This is no Gelfling!
What may be most surprising about the new film Dark Crystal is that the people who created this also gave us Kermit the Frog, Bert and Ernie, and that international sex symbol, Miss Piggy. Among the culprits is Jim Henson, who won our hearts as a versatile green frog. Jim, this film is a radical departure from what you've produced before. Why?
Well, I think we got started on it when we did the characters that we did on Saturday Night Live. That was about 7 years ago, I guess, 7 or 8 years ago. And at that time, we decided we wanted to build a whole different kind of thing that didn't look anything like the Muppets. And so we built these characters that were vaguely similar. You know, they were strange kind of reptilian things, and we put taxidermist eyes into them. And that just the use of the glass eyes gave them a kind of life that was much more realistic than anything we've done before. And that whole process started us off, and we were intrigued by the idea of creating an entire world that was not puppet-like, but instead that you would actually believe, you know, that you would actually think that these were living, breathing creatures. And that was the challenge.
What kind of a world is this world of the Dark Crystal? What's its temperature? How big is it?
Well, it is another world. It has 3 suns, so it's not of this planet at all. It's interesting. It's got a lot of scary parts. It has strange jungles. The part that we're concerned with is one part of this planet, and we never decided how big the rest of the world was. But I think the area that we're talking about is surrounded by mountains and plains, and so we're kind of isolated in this one little area. And in this area there are high mountains. There's the valley where the mystics have been living, which are sort of soft, gentle wizard creatures. There's the castle, which is the Castle of the Crystal, which is inhabited by the Skeksis. Those are the bad guys, and these are the Skeksis right here, or at least a few of them. There are 9 of them left. There are 10 of them at the beginning of the film, but one of them dies off right away. And so there are 9 basic Skeksis, and these are the bad guys. They control the landscape by means of their Garthim, which are the big soldier, lobster-like creatures that they have. And so the problem is to get them out of power, because this is evil. And so that's what our story is about.
Who tries to get them out of power? Characterize some of these creatures for me.
The Gelfling is a tribe. It's a race that has been killed off by the Skeksis because of a prophecy that they would end the Skeksis power. And so the Skeksis have virtually wiped out all of these Gelfling. And our story starts with Jen, who is the last remaining male Gelfling who's been raised by the mystics in a sheltered valley. And he is sent on a quest, and he has to go back and to restore the power.
Master?
At the time when 3 suns
Master,
meet,
what's wrong?
you are in danger, Gelfling. And I must leave you.
Leave me? Master, no.
Gelfling, I have told you of the Skeksis?
The Skeksis killed my mother and father.
The prophecy says you must find the shard. The crystal shard.
And on the way, he meets Kira, the sole remaining female Gelfling. And so it's the last two Gelflings that have to restore power. And on the way, they meet the Pod people. And the Pod people are sort of the peasants of they've been living in the woods and the forests, and they've raised Kira, the female Gelfling. And they have kept her sheltered, and so she's learned the ways of the forest and of the wild animals and things like that. And they're a very happy little group that lives there, and they're basically, their villages are raided periodically by the Gartham, and they take the Pod people back to the castle and make slaves of them.
What came first, the world or the storyline?
Shortly after we started thinking about all of this, I ran into some of the artwork of Brian Froud. And Brian is an English fantasy illustrator. And so I met with him and gave him the challenge of trying to do this entire thing, the visual of what that entire world would look like. And it's a wonderful challenge to give somebody, to design not only the creatures and what they wear, all of the things that you see, in this exhibit, for instance, and the castle and the landscape and the color palette of the skies, the whole thing, you see, was his to design. And what we wanted to do in this film that was unlike anything we've done before, we wanted to start with the visual. We wanted to start with this world because we wanted creatures that didn't move like anything on this earth. And we wanted them to have a whole different reason for being. And then we would work with that as part of our story, you see, instead of trying to design a sort of a word concept as a writer might, and then to create what that looks like. Brian pulled from all kinds of sources, both from in the creatures themselves, which he would browse books of reptiles and snakes and fish, and the Skeksis came from all of those sources, I think, and then I think in terms of the symbolisms in the film, he spent a lot of time sort of studying primitive religions and the kinds of symbols that were used by the Egyptians, by the American Indians, the Celtics, the ancient religions in Europe, and that sort of thing.
In the making of a whole world, there are obviously many challenges. What was the biggest challenge in making this world?
Well, there are many different kinds of things that were particularly hard. Many of them we experimented around a long time before we got the Landstrider, for instance. And the Landstrider is a character that sort of goes galloping quickly through the woods, and Jen and Kira have to ride on him. And so we wanted to design some kind of a large thing. At first it was going to be a land spider. And we did a lot of research and sort of designing. We wanted to try to team up and have, somewhere 3, 4, 5 dancers all together in one creature that could move. And we did a lot of research working on what that would be like. And we never got it to move fast enough. We got some interesting ways of movement, but it never traveled very fast. And then we were working to create the same creature as a stop-motion thing that we would animate. And none of the creatures in this entire film are animated or stop-motion. I think a lot of people, when they even see clips, think that that's what it is. But this motion is all for real. But what we ended up, one of our performers showed up one day on stilts. He was a clown. And he came in wearing his 10-foot stilts. And so this tall, gangly thing walks in. And Brian Froud saw that, and he said, my goodness, this is what we can do. And so then he designed the character on 4 stilts. And we have a person inside this Landstrider that can gallop, you know, and can really, it was a wonderful solution to that particular problem.
I understand there's a tree that was actually inhabited by human beings to make it work.
Well, our tree didn't make it into the final film, actually, but we have a tree that was, had 3 or 4 performers inside. In the early part of the development of this project, we were working a lot we wanted to make more of the landscape alive, and we were looking to create a kind of plant life that was sort of halfway between plants and animals. And so we had these, a bush that sort of moves around, and the tree would also move. And then we had other sort of bear-like things that were rooted in the ground and never moved. You know, so we were looking for ways of finding a middle ground between animal and plant. And there's not very much of that left in the film.
Why didn't it work?
Well, it's not that it didn't work, it's that when you get around to doing the final story, then you're telling a story. And then you have to sort of sacrifice a lot of the development stuff. And we did some work with Jen and what's called an aerial image. We shot him talking to a grasshopper, you know, and it's one of those things where you can make an insect look very, very large by particularly optic tricks that one can play. In this particular shot, Jen was about 12 feet away from the insect, and yet it seems like he's right there. It looks like the bug is a great, huge thing.
Did you dream up these characters?
Well, I did the basic story that we started working from, and I named a few of the creatures. I think the Skeksis and the Garthim. We would always have problems with names because we didn't want a film that had so many names that the audience would go out not knowing any of those things. And at the same time, you have to give the audience a couple of handles, you know, try to give them a few things that they can remember through the film. But things like Aughra, her name was originally Habitabat, I think, and Brian changed it to Aughra. I think Brian named Kira also. Frank named Fizgig. Fizgig was a little creature that Frank pretty much created that little idea of that fuzzy little creature too.
I just felt it needed something else, maybe a comedy relief. And I was looking through, I think, Thesaurus, or a dictionary, and I saw the word Fizgig, which means a small firecracker. And it just came to me that I loved the idea of this very gentle, sweet, lovable little thing that could explode any second. and had a tremendous temper, but it was a total coward. And that's all it could do was scream and roar and had this huge teeth, but he wouldn't do a thing, he was too scared. So Fizgig, this firecracker, felt very right.
Frank Oz is better known to us as the Trey Chic Miss Piggy and the lovable Fozzie Bear. Frank, who were you in Dark Crystal?
Who am I? Well, I was several things. I directed the movie with Jim, and then I was Aughra here, and I was also a bad guy called the Chamberlain.
Tell me about Aughra. Who is she? What's her character?
Aughra, half her character is the way she looks. I mean, I don't have to do a lot to make her really work great because it's just the way in which she was designed by Brian and made. You don't have to do much when a character looks that good. Aughra's character is really physical. She's like a Sherman tank. There's a presence to her. You know, her breasts move and her body moves, and she's very suspicious. She's lived in this mountain for years, 1,000 years, and she's very suspicious. And so the combination of suspicion and this kind of stocky little character moving around, that was the key to the character for me. Again, along with how ugly she looks. And she's so ugly, she's beautiful to me. So she's very warm to me.
You play one of the most loathsome villains in the film and possibly in all of fantasy. How'd you get into that mode?
Oh, I play this. One of the characters besides Aughra I play is Chamberlain. And actually, I wasn't going to do the Chamberlain. When Jim asked me to direct the movie with him, I really just wanted to direct because I was very excited. And then Jim asked me to do Aughra.